Coming up on WUFT Midday, President-elect Trump is now planning to transition back into the White House. The latest on plans and teams he could bring with him. Plus, a recount in the race for the Alachua County Sheriff, the candidate that is already claiming victory. And finally, how the USDA is helping low-income families with less public school meal fees. We dive in next on WUFT's Midday.
Watching WUFT Midday.
President Biden addressed the nation less than 30 minutes ago, saying his administration has 74 days left to get things done. This is WUFT's Midday, and I'm Tanya Fedak. During the president's speech this morning, Biden worked to provide comfort to supporters of him and Vice President Kamala Harris, who lost Tuesday's election against former President Trump.
I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree.
The Biden administration is making contingency plans for a possible surge in border crossings ahead of a Trump presidency, as more would-be immigrants say they are concerned President-elect Donald Trump will shut down the border. With a new administration comes a new transition. WFT's Haley Power joins us live in the newsroom with how the White House plans to handle the switch.
We are beginning to get a picture of what a second Trump administration may look like. The president-elect defined key issues he will make a priority as he returns to the White House. Next for President-elect Trump is the shift from campaign to transition team. We expect to learn how he is tapped to be a part of his cabinet in the coming days. A White House official confirmed Biden invited Trump to meet with him at the White House and expressed his commitment to ensure a smooth transition, emphasizing the importance of working to bring the country together. A specific date set for the meeting will be worked out at a later time. Vice President Harris, President Biden, and President-elect Trump have all talked about unity after what has been called a contentious campaign. Live in the studio, Haley Power, WUFT News.
Gainesville residents passed the Gainesville Regional Utilities ballot referendum on Tuesday, but some residents think the decision will take away their voice in the utility company. The decision returns control of GRU back to the city of Gainesville from the current authority board, which was appointed by Governor DeSantis. Voters who passed the referendum say the switch will give residents more influence over the company's mission and management. However, people who use GRU outside the city say the decision takes away their voice. At a city commission meeting last night, these residents said they should be able to vote on who controls their utilities. The GRU Authority Board cannot be dissolved until it ends legal battle with the city. Alachua County saw a record early voter turnout during this year's election cycle. According to the Florida Division of Elections, voting across the county increased by some 20,000 voters since the 2020 election. Mail-in voting decreased by nearly 50% from the last general election 4 years ago, but many chose to vote by mail due to the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the UF Election Lab, more than 5 million Floridians voted early in person, which is nearly half of the roughly 11 million ballots counted. And the Alachua County Sheriff's race still remains undecided after a slim margin called for a recount. WFT's Carolina Tortorelli has more on what this election recount could entail.
With over 130,000 votes cast for sheriff in Alachua County, the race came down to the wire. Democratic candidate Chad Scott received 46.96% of votes, and Republican candidate Emery Gainey received 46.67% of votes, leaving a 0.29% difference. On election night, Sheriff Gainey, who currently serves as the Alachua County Sheriff, made an announcement that a recount would likely take place, so he shut down his watch party early. We interviewed Gainey the night of the election.
When you get into these races, you got one or two choices. You win or you lose. So quite frankly, we will do the will of the people.
On the other hand, Scott claimed a premature victory at his watch party, as the night ended with him in the lead. We interviewed Scott the night of the election.
When you put in work, you compete, so and I think the competition was great, and I just came out ahead.
Third-party candidate Pamela Marshall-Coons gained a little more than 8,400 votes, giving her 6% of the recorded votes. According to the Alachua County Supervisor of Elections Director of Communications and Outreach, Aaron Klein, the vote is still too close to call.
We can look and see exactly what the margin is in that contest for sheriff. Now, right now, it's looking pretty close, so we are preparing for the possibility of having to deal with a recount.
Since all mail-in ballots have not been fully counted, no results have been announced.
Depending on the margin found later today, officials will not tell the results, likely until next week. A 12-year-old boy was hit by a white pickup truck while walking along the road. The child was on County Road 467 when the driver collided with the kid, causing non-life-threatening injuries. The driver fled the scene. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Florida Highway Patrol at 904-359-6572. And in other news, Veterans Day is coming up on the 11th. Here are some ways you and your family can celebrate and honor our veterans here in Alachua County. The community is invited to honor the service and sacrifice of our veterans at the Alachua County Veterans Day celebration at Veterans Memorial Park. The event will begin at 9 a.m. on the 11th. There will be breakfast, live music, a flag ceremony, and more. There will also be a veterans parade at the Bass Pro Shops in Gainesville starting at 11:30 a.m. The first 200 attendees will receive an American flag to wave in support. Other deals can also be found locally. The Florida Museum of Natural History will offer free admission to veterans. And we have one last event in the area for you that is before Veterans Day. The Gainesville Community Band will present their Veterans Day concert for a cause at the Gainesville First Presbyterian Church Sanctuary on the 10th. The program will include a variety of patriotic songs and a free will offering to support Made for More. There will also be a spaghetti dinner in Gordon Memorial Hall immediately after the concert. And if you're looking for another way to spend your Veterans Day, a new playground at Veterans Memorial Park will open on Monday. Alachua County Parks and Open Space will host a ceremony to reveal the new playground and other park improvements. The unveiling will start at 9 a.m. on 41st Street. The project costed about $2.3 million in total. And lastly, in observance of Veterans Day, the City of Gainesville will have changes in their services. All city offices will be closed on Monday. The regional transit system will not provide service on the holiday, but residential curbside collection for garbage and recycling will not be affected. And let's take a look at the traffic now flowing down I-75 in Marion County. Both the southbound and northbound lanes are filled with expected traffic for the noon hour. We are seeing some cloudy skies in the area, so let's head over to Sienna Silvest to see what we can expect for today.
Absolutely, here on campus we are seeing those cloudy skies with a little bit of sunshine poking through, but we are going to move to the Atlantic. As of 9 a.m. this morning, Hurricane Raphael is a Category 2 storm. Now, as it traveled through Cuba last night, where is that storm expected to go as we go into the day and into tomorrow? So Hurricane Raphael is a center of low pressure, and as the center of high pressure moving across Florida will keep it from moving northward. So it will continue to steer towards the west as it dissipates and then move towards that south central Gulf of Mexico. Now, how that translates into the track, currently Hurricane Raphael is 100 mile per hour wind strength, slow moving storm there at 9 miles an hour. As we go into Friday morning, it will continue to track westward and then through the weekend into early next week take that southern turn into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, Hurricane Raphael is not the only activity there in the tropics. This yellow region right here, indicated by the National Hurricane Center, has a 20% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. Now, this is associated with a trough of low pressure that's creating those disorganized showers and thunderstorms and will continue to track westward but have that decreased chance of formation. Now, as we move back home to our campus camp, temperatures here at 83 degrees, a little bit of wind there from the southeast there at 10 miles an hour. Now, those temperatures all across north central Florida are in those low 80s. We are 83 here in Gainesville, 82 there in Stark, same there in Jacksonville at 83, all across north central Florida in those low to mid 80s. Now, as we go into the night, those temperatures around 8 to 10 p.m. are going to stay between those low to mid 70s. But as we track towards tomorrow morning, expect those temperatures to reach those upper 60s, lower 70s. Now, that rain, we are dry right now here in Gainesville, but off the western coast near Cedar Key, we are seeing those isolated showers there from Raphael. But we're going to see some isolated showers to our north around Lake City, as well as for that western part of I-95. Now, as we go into next week, those temperatures are going to stay pretty similar there in those low to high 80s. For Veterans Day, we are going to be cloudy, with those cloudy conditions ending as we go into next week with that warm weather. Low-income families will soon pay less when adding money to their student school lunch accounts.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently announced it will ban schools from charging fees when adding funds to school lunch accounts for families that qualify for free or reduced breakfast and lunch. A study found the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimates low-income families pay 60 cents in processing fees for each dollar they spend on school lunch. School districts are encouraged to adhere to the new rule as soon as possible, but it officially takes effect in the 2027 to 2028 school year. A North Central Florida nonprofit is doing its part to fight food insecurity for kids. A Food for Kids has kicked off the first ever Alachua County Food Fight, a community-wide competition to collect food and money donations. The organization aims to end child hunger for the 1,700 children it serves. Its goal is to fill a large box truck with wholesale food or to raise $20,000. Employees say the service drive requires the entire community's efforts to be successful.
We wanted to do something that would raise awareness about the fact that there's 1 in 4 children in our community and in our surrounding communities that experience food insecurity. And what that means is they don't know where their next meal is going to come from.
(352-888-6645) to have a box dropped at your location. The Federal Reserve is expected to announce its latest interest rate decision today following their 2-day policy meeting. The Fed kept rates at a 2-decade high for a year to rein in inflation. In September, they finally cut rates by 0.5 point, and inflation has been falling, but not as quickly as estimated. Meanwhile, the presidential election results and signs of a cooling labor market will likely impact the Fed's decision. Rate cuts are expected to stretch through 2025. Initial jobless claims rose slightly last week, as expected, but Americans are staying unemployed for longer. The Labor Department reports 221,000 initial claims for unemployment insurance last week. That's up 3,000 from the week before. But the number of continuing claims filed by people who have received unemployment insurance for at least a week went up by 39,000 to 1.89 million for the week ending October 26th. It's the highest level of continuing claims since November 2021. The pullback in job growth is attributed more to employers not hiring rather than laying workers off. If you're concerned about what the next few weeks will bring to a nation that is divided, you're not alone. Stress management experts say now is a good time to pause and analyze your physical and emotional stress. Here are a few science-backed ways to cut yourself a break. Breathe, move, and have a plan. Taking a stroll can reset your nervous system and counteract stress signals. Planning to do something with friends also helps to reduce stress. It's also recommended to do a circle of control exercise where you list what is in your control, what you can influence, and what is not in your control. Now let's get over to WFT First at 5 anchor Kirsten Maselka with a look at what's coming up on First at 5 on Channel 5.
Thanks, Tanya. The Alachua County Sheriff's race is still up for grabs, as you said earlier, and we'll be monitoring the ongoing recount as the day progresses. Next, Cuba is without electricity after Hurricane Rafael damaged the country's electrical grid. And more on how they're recovering after the Category 3 storm will be on at 5. And the city of Gainesville is already receiving pushback on a referendum passed Tuesday that switched GRR control back to the city. We'll have an update on the voters who say the decision takes away their voice coming up at 5.
And before we go, one last check on the weather.
Absolutely. So even though we have little to no rain chance over the next week, we are experiencing those high dew points. So expect that air to feel sticky and a little bit uncomfortable as we go into next week. Now for the next week, take those warm temperatures and enjoy them before we go into those winter months.
And thanks for joining us for WUFT Midday. We're back here tomorrow for another edition. We now join Sports Scene with Steve Russell, live on WRUF Radio and right here on WRUF-TV, Channel 6.